This is called the Stability Ball Reverse Hyperjack. I love this exercise. It's just a fun and unique way to work our glutes in an unusual way. One quick thing I wanted to point out before we get started is that this is a small movement. So something that I didn't used to know, and you may not know either, is that our hips, I just want to show you, let me get here into the position. Our hips, when we, I'm gonna fall over. When we don't have a crease at our hips, okay, so when I'm right here, this is called a neutral hip. There's no bend at my hip joint right now, right? Okay. Now, if I want to bring my leg behind my body, or in this case, like above, right? I'm extending at my hip joint. And we only have, this was really hard to do on one leg. This spot here, we only have about 15 degrees of hip extension before, to get my leg any higher after that, I would have to start arching my spine. Okay, so the goal with this exercise is to keep the movement strictly here at the hip joint. We're gonna bring it down a little so that there's a bit of a crease in the hip, and then we're gonna lift to level, and then we're gonna go above level. But if you keep in mind, you know, that we only have 15 degrees, like anatomically as far as what we can do, that's a small amount, right? So sometimes you might see on videos people lifting their legs super high in the air when they're doing those things like this. But a lot of that movement is coming through their spine and their low back, and we're not working the muscle that way, and it's not very healthy for your spine. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get into position for the Stability Ball Reverse Hyperjack. You're gonna kneel in front of the ball, and you're just gonna roll onto the ball, pushing off with your feet so that your belly's on the ball. And your upper body, you will have a little bit of weight on your upper body to help hold you still. So you just kind of play around with it, but you don't want to have all your weight on the body, on your upper body like this. This would make it really easy and nothing would be happening with my glutes. So ideally you want to have your torso kind of parallel to the ground to some degree. That way our glutes are working against gravity and resistance to lift the legs, right? Hands are about, 8 inches or so in front of the ball. You can do fingertips or palms, just whatever is comfortable for you. Your legs are going to start straight out behind you and close together, but not touching. Okay, so I don't have my feet and my legs touching. That would make it easier, but you go ahead and have them close together, okay? So they're here straight out below me. You can lower them a little bit in the starting position, and in between each rep, we'll come down to about this level. The key is, gosh, this is so hard to do with just trying to balance with one hand and point. The key here is that you don't want the spine, your low back, to be rounding and arching and rounding during the movement, okay? We want the spine ideally to basically not move at all, okay? That the goal here is just moving only here from the hip joint. And again, it is a small movement. Hi, I'm Razel. If you're a woman in your over 40s like myself, and you know that you should start doing some resistance training, but you feel intimidated and overwhelmed about how to do it right, worried that you'll hurt yourself, I create in-depth tutorials that really break the movement down. In addition, over on my website, I have extra things like how to make the movement more difficult, how to make it easier, different common mistakes to avoid with the movement to make sure that we're getting the right muscle activation and that we're not positioning ourselves in a way where we're going to get hurt. If you like my style of teaching and all of that sounds good to you and you'd like to keep learning with me, come on over to my website at inspireforwomen.com. So we're right here. We're going to use our glute muscles to lift the legs up in the air. Remember, we only have 15 degrees of hip extension, so it's going to be a small movement. When we get as high as we can go there without arching our low back, we're going to spread the legs open, kind of like a jumping jack, just as far as you can. You're going to meet a point where you feel like, oh, I can't really spread my legs any wider. Then you're going to bring them back close together, but not touching. And then you're going to lower them. And again, we're not going to lower them all the way down and around the back, right? We're not going to do that. We both want to keep tension on the glute muscle and keep that neutral spine. So if you see about there is good for me. If I lower any further, my low back is going to kind of start rounding to accomplish the lowering. So I'm going to stop there because this ball, right, is in the way. So we stop there, we go back up, Spread the legs open, close, and down. Up. So again, remember we want to keep that neutral spine, only lower so that our low back doesn't start rounding. We go up, we only have that 15 degrees of extension, so if we start going higher, you can see my back is now arching, right? So that's not what we want. We only go as far as our glutes can extend the hips. Then we spread open, back together, nice and close but not touching, and then lower a little bit. Okay, so here's another angle. Hopefully you can see the movement just a little better. So you can see my legs close together. They come up a little bit above my bottom, spread out as far as you can comfortably go, back together, and down, up. Can you guys hear my chickens? Thanks for being with me today, ladies. Once again, I'm Razel, and if you're a woman in your over 40s like myself, and you'd like to do full-length workouts utilizing these movements, I create those as well. They're all done in beautiful outdoor nature settings with chill music, which is probably something different than most other workouts that you've seen. They're follow along, and if you like my style of teaching, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com.